Okay, that was a weird bug there. It took time for the recording to start. Anyways, welcome back. So I guess what we do now is we just talk, because if it wasn't for the fact that the game wouldn't let me replay the final boss, I would be able to just use that save file where I didn't waste all my money on the theater to pay Mr. Krabs with that, and hopefully that would cover all my expenses, or if it didn't, cover most of them, or a lot of them at least. That's not going to be the case here, so I guess we'll just have to grind shiny objects this way. Which, I mean, to be fair, we are still grinding shiny objects fairly quickly compared to anything else in this game. It's just slow compared to the original game. But whatever the case, I guess now I should talk about things. It's a little awkward trying to talk about what my opinions are on this game now, since I haven't actually seen all of it yet. Because I haven't seen the multiplayer for one, which I will do. And I also haven't seen the extra content I'm pretty certain is in the game. I'm pretty sure Patch Stream is in the game, I think. If I don't see it after 100% of the game, I'll look up online to make sure it's a thing. And I didn't just misunderstand things, but the Steam page for this game before it was released mentioned that stuff, so it should be there, I would think, somewhere. But it was also kind of weird how non-obvious it is. If that's the case. I guess being 100% reward could be it, though. We'll have to see. But that is one kind of weird thing about this game. So this is just a thing, an issue of me having expected something new. I kept expecting something to change at some point in this game and be, like, notably different from the original, and it didn't ever really happen, with the exception of Spongebob Stream having a different background color. That was it, really. And some small things, like, I guess there are like small things like new dialogue and stuff like that, but I mean something that's more fundamentally different, like a new area or something, which never happened. But that might just be based on misunderstanding, so I can't really hold that against the game. What I will say instead is I've had a heck of a lot of fun playing this game, and for all the wrong reasons. This game's been a real adventure because, oh my god, I have broken so many things, and so many things are broken already on their own. Like the bosses! You can't redo the final boss! And so, for instance, I'm guessing since everything else is so close to the original version of the game, you probably get a little musical, for instance. Really, just to make sure I haven't. Yes. You get a little musical or something like that after you complete the game with 100%. In the original, that was how things worked. And in the original, you could complete the game, and then complete it with all the spatulas, and then you get to see the more musical in this version of the game. And when I say version, I don't just mean Rehydrated, but also the release version of Rehydrated, the non-patch version. There's that bug where you can't redo the final boss. Like, that's amazing that glitch is there. That, I think, is the most egregious in this game by far. And the fact that you, for some reason... Well, I get that it's a bug, you can't replay boss fights, but what's egregious about it is that you don't have to do anything to cause it. You just go back to that area, which is absolutely something that should be play tested somewhere. Presumably, hopefully, giving the developers the benefit of the doubt, it was a bug that cropped up late in development or something. Or maybe what could have happened is they had to get a release version of the game out, and they didn't have time to fix that massive bug, and they just had to release a patch shortly afterwards anyways. And they knew they'd have to release a patch shortly afterwards, but at the same time, this might be me being old-fashioned, but I don't have much tolerance for a game being buggy on release. Because back in those days, especially back in the day of this game having been released for the first time on the Xbox and PS2 and all that, GameCube, you couldn't patch a game. You can't patch a disc, or at least not back in that day. So they had to work with what they had to make sure everything was good when it was released. They had to make sure things worked, and you basically assumed that things were the intended behavior. So, if I was playing this game for the first time, in fact, if I was playing even this version of the game, or if this version of the game was the first time I'd played the game, and I saw that bosses weren't available after you had beaten them before, I would just assume, okay, I guess you can't defeat bosses again. That's just part of the design of the game. I would assume that was deliberate. In part because you just kind of generally assumed that whatever, back in that day, that whatever you got, whatever prog was generally pretty complete. Like, of course, there'd always be bugs of some sort. And this game is pretty abusable, particularly compared to basically anything else in terms of sequence breaking. The original Bikini Bomb, that is. This version too. Which is amusing because sometimes it's them having managed to miss something that was an exploit in the original version, which I figure they'd find most of those issues, and they did fix most of them, I think. Most of the places you could sequence break in the original. They also, and this was bound to happen, they introduced some new ones. But they introduced some really obvious new ones too in a couple cases, I feel like. Particularly with things that are accessible to Sandy. Sandy just breaks this game, my god. In part though, because of other bugs with Sandy, like being able to jump after every time you lasso something in the air. Like, I think it's fine, even nice. I kind of appreciate the fact that you can lasso things in the air in this version. But it's buggy. And it's amazing to me how many bugs... I almost impressed myself finding as many bugs as I did in this game. Part of it is just because of my prior experience in the game. Because I know where the holes were in the original version of the game, so I know where to look in this version too. To try, like, where to push on to see if it cracks and gives in. But even then, and I made an active effort to try to break these too, granted, but even then, I shouldn't have been able to break as many things as I did in this game. And so many things, there were lots of things I found that were totally accidental and not even me trying to break anything. Like, I encountered a number of issues with trampolines. Like getting stuck in the air, for instance. And at one point, once I discovered that, I pushed a little bit further and I discovered that weird little cruise boost glitch where you get stuck in the bubble bowl state. And then at one point I managed to fly into the sky! That was amazing!
Oh no.
Oh no! Like I said, the extra jumps with Sandy, for instance, the issues on trampolines. Bugs I found that sometimes I was looking for bugs, and this game is buggy, my god. And the issues with, back in Jellyfish Field as well, that one springy platform that I could barely even get past. There are parts in this game where, and that springy platform too, it seemed to be original, maybe it wasn't. I just, like, it seemed so obvious that it almost seemed deliberate to me. But you could skip a tutorial by doing this, so maybe not. You could skip the wall jump tutorial. If you went the opposite direction on that springy platform, back in Jellyfish Fields, you could actually just skip straight to the spatula. If I could have done that, if that behavior was maintained from the original, then I would have been able to get around the part that was giving me issues. But again, if that was actually unintended behavior, then I guess it's good they fixed it. It's just so obvious to me that it seems to be intended behavior, but maybe it wasn't. On the other hand, there were things that were added in this version, which I appreciated, like the extra dialogue from all sorts of characters. Little things like Patrick actually acknowledging that you had found all the lost socks. That I love. That's actually a detail that I really, really like. And sometimes little things like Spongebob actually holding stuff in cutscenes when he mentions them. And you not just having to imagine it. I think that's probably good too, that they did that. Little bits of polish where it just wasn't possible to do everything that the developers wanted in the original version. I think that's the way to do a re-release. I don't usually care about re-releases. I want to touch this game if it wasn't for the fact that people want me to play it on this channel, and heck, I enjoyed it a lot, so I'm very happy to play it regardless. And I got to have an amazing... Well, the reason I enjoyed it a lot was because I broke everything. But it felt like it also took away as many things. Some things that... Sometimes they're just little details that I don't know why they make it into this version. Like, for instance, the announcer in the final portion of the final boss. Don't know why that's not there. No idea why the realistic fish head is not in the small shell rule. Or not. I always appreciate him being there. For instance, there's also the Super Ultra Mega Monster combo not being there, which is interesting. I don't know why they would remove that. They seem to just think that it was too easy to get shiny objects in this game. Actually, there's a little detail too I'm just now noticing. This isn't really like, this one isn't even really crazy, but if you look at the top right, well actually, yeah, the stuff in general in the corners of the screen, they're actually icons now instead of 3D models. Originally they were 3D models. I guess it fits this game's aesthetic a bit better to have icons in the corner of the screen that are two-dimensional instead of 3D things floating. I like the 3D things floating, but I tend to be stuck in like 2000s aesthetics and whatnot, so I guess I can't hold that against the game for being modern. Visually, I think the game is nice. There aren't many places where I could say the game looks worse, I don't think. Flying Dustin's Graveyard are really cool. I legitimately think that Spongebob Room got an upgrade. I think the cloud interpretation of it is probably the better one, visually speaking, and thematically too, because it's a dream. Makes sense. Little things too, like not being able to loop around in Patrick's Dream anymore. There seem to be some spots where they kind of misunderstood jokes too, in the dialogue. And also little things like the TV's not exploding anymore. And what else? Lots of little things that just didn't make it in. I don't know why they would have dropped unless they just like weren't paying attention, they didn't notice those in the original. But I don't know what the process of remastering a game is like, because they remade this game from the ground up just to make it like the original. I don't know if they had access to all the original files and things like that or not, and stuff like that, or like if they got to talk to the original developers to see like what their thought process was or anything like that. I have no idea. So I'm only guessing on whenever I try to see what the developers might be doing or thinking. But, honestly, I think you grind pretty quickly in this game. I don't think it's really that much of a problem that you don't have a Super Ultra Mega Monster combo. Like, I've been grinding for 10 minutes and I got almost 3,000 shiny objects, which is a ton. Unless you need like a seriously grotesque number of shiny objects from Mr. Krabs, which maybe you do. I don't know. The theater was super disappointing, because that was just art that you could already see elsewhere in the game. But at the same time, they added little things like that. And they added funny details like some new animations that were references to things that thought were funnier from the show. Which it's a modernization of the game, which I think is good, having more things from the show in the game. And then like the update of the museum, for instance, and all the art in there, I love that. That was really nice. Art from other SpongeBob games, for instance, or like the models, character models just doing stuff in funny ways. Even though Gary was inside the toilet for some reason, if I remember right. There's just this, like, there are these bits of oddity laced all throughout this game. Oh, there's another thing I wanted to mention. Speaking of characters, and speaking of not quite getting certain things, it really does bug me that for some reason in this game, the spatulas don't appear in sync with the dialogue anymore, which, like, it helped with the impact of the spatula. The spatulas in particular, there's no love in the spatulas. I don't know why. They're just there. Like, sometimes they don't even have the glowing effect around them, but they don't seem to make a sound anymore or anything. I think they accelerated the animation for picking it up or something like that. I don't quite recall. They don't make a sound when they appear anymore, and they don't appear in sync with the characters saying things anymore. So it's an important thing, like having an actual feeling of like accomplishment when you pick up a spatula and whatnot. But in this game, they're just kind of there. You just pick them up like you would like a sock or something. And even when a character gives one to you, there's no like fanfare with it appearing or them like dramatically timing the appearance of the spatula with anything or anything like that. It's just you advance the dialogue and it's there now. And you got it. It might sound nitpicky, but I do think that's one of those little things that are important in the game, and if you can get them right, it actually helps your game a lot. And if you get them wrong, you lose out on a lot. Oh well. I might have to take a moment to collect the rest of my thoughts on this game. So I've just been talking about the bugginess, but that's the main thing to me. That's the main thing that sticks out to me about this game in all seriousness, which is kinda sad. It's buggy. It's buggy as heck. I don't know how much they fixed in the patch. I don't know if it's fair for me to hold against the developers the fact that the original version of the game is so broken. Maybe I shouldn't, because now the modern video game culture is just the publishers say, you get this game out really soon, really fast. We don't care if there are problems with it. If there are problems with it at launch, just patch it. Maybe it's the publisher's fault, I don't know. But the end result is the game has problems like that. I think I'll try to focus next episode on a bit more in the way of things that I like changes they made that I like, additions they made and whatnot. Give a bit more feel to the game, because there are things I like about this game. But the things that stick out to me more are the things that stick out for the wrong reasons. But I think I'll see you guys next episode. I'll start off next episode by paying off some of my debt to Mr. Krabs. Bye everyone.